December 9th, 1965, began as a quiet afternoon in the small, unsuspecting village of Kecksburg, Pennsylvania. This peaceful community sits tucked away in the southwest corner of the state, far from any city. Located just 30 miles southeast of Pittsburgh, life here usually moved at a much slower, predictable pace. But on that cold December day, the silence was shattered by something falling from the gray sky. A massive thud echoed through the woodlands, shaking the very ground beneath the residents' tired feet. The impact felt like a giant's hammer hitting the earth, felt by everyone but seen by few. What could cause a sound so massive it rattled the windows of every single home in town? Why did this specific winter afternoon change the destiny of Kecksburg forever in a single heartbeat? Soon, this quiet village became the epicenter of a mystery that the government still hasn't fully explained. Reports of the event spread quickly, reaching local news outlets like the popular WHJB radio station. One reporter, John Murphy, would soon find himself at the heart of this unfolding investigative drama. Witnesses began whispering about a strange, acorn-shaped craft that had supposedly crashed deep within the dark forest. Was it a secret military project? Or perhaps a failed piece of Soviet technology like Cosmos 96? Some even speculated the object was Die Glocke, a legendary and terrifying weapon from a darker era. Every seismograph in the region likely registered the vibration from this mysterious and very sudden arrival. Local authorities and curious residents began to converge on the impact site as the winter night fell. Little did they know, they were about to witness a scene that remains controversial over 50 years later. The woods were no longer silent, filled instead with the sounds of confusion and rapidly growing fear. Kecksburg was no longer just a dot on the map. It had become a global site of intrigue. But Kecksburg wasn't the first time the American landscape had been scarred by something falling from stars. To understand the weight of Kecksburg, we must look at the long echoes of the past. While many point to Roswell, the American UFO story follows a pattern established decades earlier. History suggests that what crashed in Pennsylvania was simply the latest chapter in a strange play. Is it possible that the mystery in the woods was merely repeating a long-forgotten sequence? What connects a 19th century farm in Texas to a quiet village in the spring of 1897, a mysterious object reportedly fell from the sky near Aurora, Texas. Witnesses at the time claimed the craft collided with a windmill on a local judge's property. Townspeople who rushed to the scene described a pilot who was clearly not of this world. This frontier encounter left behind haunting questions that would linger for over 100 years. Long before the space age, the skies over the American West were already hiding secrets. 50 years after Aurora, the desert of New Mexico would become the stage for another legend. In 1947, the most famous incident in UFO history occurred near the town of Roswell. A local rancher discovered strange debris scattered across the rugged landscape after a powerful storm. These jagged pieces of wreckage were allegedly the remains of a downed alien spacecraft. The Roswell crash redefined the American perception of the unexplained and fueled decades of speculation. Kecksburg serves as the third act in a narrative that began in Aurora and peaked in Roswell. Each of these incidents shares a chilling similarity: a sudden impact, followed by immediate government secrecy. While the acorn-shaped craft remains unique, it shares a mysterious lineage with the wreckage of Roswell. We must ask if these events are isolated accidents or part of a larger, hidden history. The echoes of Aurora and Roswell resonate through the snowy woods of the Pennsylvania landscape. But unlike these earlier legends, Kecksburg was witnessed by thousands in real time across the continent. It wasn't just a local event. The scale of this mystery was truly continental in nature. At exactly 4:44 p.m., the afternoon sky didn't just light up, it screamed with sudden intensity. On December 9th, 1965, a brilliant fireball tore across the sky of the northeastern United States. This was no ordinary meteor, as it seemed to command the attention of an entire sleeping region. Witnesses from 6 different U.S. states looked up in awe at the blazing trail of golden fire. How could a single object be seen across such a vast distance at the same time? The glowing anomaly streaked over the horizons of Wisconsin, Michigan, and the flat fields of Indiana. It continued its silent, fiery march over Ohio, West Virginia, and the rugged Pennsylvania landscape. Even across the northern border, people in Ontario, Canada, watched the spectacle with growing alarm. The fireball moved like a tracer bullet fired with precision across the map of North America. High above the ground, 23 pilots reported seeing the strange object cutting through the thick atmosphere. These experienced aviators watched as the blazing craft defied the usual patterns of common falling debris. As it passed, powerful sonic booms rattled windows and shook the very foundations of the earth. Was this thunderous roar a natural phenomenon, or the sound of something mechanical breaking the sound barrier? The sheer power of the object's passage left a wake of confusion and sudden, chilling fear. Some reports claimed the intense heat even sparked grass fires as the object descended with rapid speed. Thousands of people were now united by a single, terrifying question about the object they just saw. The fireball was moving with a speed that defied any easy explanation for the witnesses watching below. Ever since that 4:44 p.m. timestamp, the world has searched for the truth behind the light. It was a moment of collective shock that transformed a quiet afternoon into a lasting historical mystery. While scientists mentioned the Soviet Cosmos 96, others began to whisper about much more exotic possibilities. Some wondered if this was the legendary Die Glocke or something entirely unknown to our world. Far-reaching seismograph stations even picked up the vibrations of the mysterious object's heavy atmospheric entry. The sheer scale of the event made it impossible for the authorities to ignore the growing public frenzy. But while pilots watched it streak through the sky, one young boy was about to see where it landed. What they found in the woods wasn't a jagged meteor, but a craft from another world. As wisps of blue smoke rose from the trees, the first responders finally arrived at The young boy stood frozen, claiming a metallic craft had just crashed in his own backyard. High above the canopy, his mother watched as strange blue smoke began to curl upwards. Local firefighters were the first to drop everything and plunge into the dense Pennsylvania brush. They pushed through the thick undergrowth, guided only by the lingering scent of burning metal. Deep in the ravine, volunteers stumbled upon a metallic, acorn-shaped craft buried in the mud. The mysterious object was surprisingly compact, roughly the size of a classic Volkswagen Beetle. A band around its base featured strange markings that looked like ancient Egyptian hieroglyphics. Why would a natural object from space carry symbols resembling a language from our past? The surface was seamless and metallic, showing no signs of rivets or traditional construction. It sat in the mud like a giant acorn dropped by some unknown celestial oak tree, if it wasn't a meteor, whose car was sitting silently in the cold Pennsylvania mud. The firefighters circled the craft, their flashlights reflecting off its dull, unearthly metallic sheen. These first responders saw something that would haunt their memories for the rest of their lives. Every witness described the same bizarre features before the atmosphere of the woods changed forever. Those hieroglyphic symbols seemed to pulse under the frantic light of the search party's torches. They barely had time to process the markings before the authorities moved in to shut it down. Within no wars, the quiet village of Kecksburg would become the center of a massive military lockdown. The acorn-shaped craft remained a silent witness to the chaos about to descend upon the town. The firefighters who first approached the object in the Kecksburg woods noticed a detail that defied logic. As they drew closer, a peculiar decorative band became visible around the wide base of the craft. This strange strip contained intricate markings that bore a striking resemblance to ancient Egyptian hieroglyphics. These weren't just random scratches, but purposeful symbols etched deeply into the metallic exterior of the vessel. Multiple witnesses later confirmed these same rhythmic patterns, adding a layer of credibility to the strange report. Why would a craft from the stars or a secret hangar carry symbols from an ancient civilization? Local reporter John Murphy captured several photographs that supposedly documented this startling and alien visual evidence. Witness Michael Mazer later described seeing a distinct cone-shaped object within those very same photographs. This shape aligned perfectly with the descriptions of the metallic acorn-shaped craft resting in the dark ravine. The presence of these hieroglyphs challenged every conventional explanation for the object's mysterious terrestrial origin. If the craft was a secret Soviet satellite like Cosmos 96, such markings would be entirely out of place. Yet, the consistency of the firefighter accounts makes it difficult to dismiss these symbols as mere hallucinations. Each symbol seemed to hold a specific meaning, arranged in a sequence that suggested a complex language. The strange script hinted at a history far older and more complex than a standard military project. Researchers have long debated whether these markings were technical instructions or perhaps a celestial identification code. The mystery deepened as investigators compared these reports to other famous encounters across the globe. John Murphy's role as a WHJB radio investigator became central to preserving the memory of these symbols. While the military eventually seized the craft, the memory of those Egyptian-style markings could not be erased. These hieroglyphics remain one of the most polarizing and fascinating aspects of the entire Kecksburg incident. Some experts compared the designs to the rumored Nazi Die Glocke project, noting a terrifying mechanical similarity. Unlike a meteor recorded by a seismograph, this object bore the undeniable fingerprints of intelligent design. The mystery of the hieroglyphs continues to haunt those who believe we are not alone in the universe. The symbols suggested that what landed in Pennsylvania was far more than a simple piece of space junk. The discovery was short-lived as the military moved in like a surgical team to secure the area. Within hours, the quiet woods of Kecksburg were transformed into a strictly controlled military zone. Pennsylvania State Police arrived first, quickly sealing off every entrance to the mysterious crash site. Local residents who tried to investigate were met with flashlights and stern orders to turn back. The air grew thick with tension as more personnel arrived under the darkening canopy of trees. By nightfall, the once silent ravine was buzzing with the focused activity of armed military units. Every path leading to the Acorn-Shaped craft was guarded, preventing any further civilian eyes from watching. Whispers began to spread through the small town about what was truly happening in those shadows. The military acted with chilling efficiency, as if they knew exactly how to handle this anomaly. As the night deepened, local rumors suggest the U.S. Army prepared a massive flatbed truck. Eyewitnesses claimed to see a large, shrouded shape being hoisted from the deep, wadded ravine. The mysterious object was reportedly secured under heavy tarps to hide its strange, hieroglyphic markings. Under the silent cover of darkness, the truck began its slow journey out of the Kecksburg woods. By the time the sun began to rise, the forest was empty and the object was gone. The public was left with more questions than answers as the heavy military presence finally receded. Why would the military respond to a mere meteor with such intense secrecy and armed guards? The following day, a local newspaper boldly reported that a UFO had crash-landed near Kecksburg. This headline sent shockwaves through the community, contradicting the official stories that were soon to follow. While the authorities minimized the event, the actions taken that night told a much different story. They had removed the evidence before the world even realized what had truly fallen from the sky. What happened during those dark hours remains one of the most guarded secrets of the entire incident. The recovery was complete, but the mystery of the Kecksburg craft was only just beginning to unfold. To understand the military's urgency, we must look at the tense world of late 1960s. The Cold War was at its peak, turning every unusual aerial sighting into a potential national crisis. In this era, any unidentified object falling from the heavens was viewed through a lens of fear. Authorities immediately wondered if this Kecksburg craft was a malfunctioning Soviet satellite or a secret weapon. The possibility of a Russian orbital vehicle like Cosmos 96 loomed large over the investigation. If the Soviets had crashed in Pennsylvania, the United States needed to secure that technology immediately. This intense geopolitical pressure explains why a military presence arrived at the scene within a few hours. Soldiers did not just come to observe. They came to contain what could be a foreign threat. The rapid response was a hallmark of an age defined by the desperate race for space. While locals whispered of aliens, the Pentagon was likely searching for spent rocket casings or cameras. At the same time, rumors of secret American projects like Die Glocke haunted the minds of Could this acorn-shaped craft have been a classified domestic asset tested far from the public eye? If the object was ours, the military had every reason to hide the truth from everyone. John Murphy and his team at WHJB Radio found themselves caught between local curiosity and federal secrecy. Every witness account was a puzzle piece that the government desperately wanted to control or suppress. As night failed, the tension in the Kecksburg woods reached a breaking point under the floodlights. Rumors suggest the U.S. Army finally removed the shrouded object on a flatbed truck late that night. This heavy-duty transport suggested the cargo was dense, metallic, and far more than a simple meteor. Seismograph data from the impact zone would later provide clues about the mass of the fallen object. The military's surgical precision in the ravine hinted at a pre-planned recovery operation for such events. Every action taken that night was a calculated move in a high-stakes game of global intelligence. By dawn, the site was scrubbed clean, leaving only tire tracks and a growing list of questions. The speed of the lockdown showed that the government was prepared for a falling sky. Whether it was Soviet hardware or a secret U.S. asset, the mission was a total success. Yet, the geopolitical explanations only deepened the mystery for those who saw the strange symbols firsthand. To keep the peace, an explanation was needed, so they chose the most convenient one available. The government called it a rock, but the theorists called it a tragic Soviet failure. Yet, the official narrative and the math simply do not add up for either explanation. Authorities moved quickly to identify the blazing fireball as nothing more than a common meteor. They wanted the public to believe that a stray space rock had simply fallen from the sky. Blaming a meteor was a simple way to silence the growing panic in the Kecksburg community. However, a far more terrestrial and dangerous hypothesis soon began to circulate among the Many believed the Kecksburg object was actually debris from a failed Soviet satellite known as Cosmos 96. This theory suggested that Cold War technology, not a meteor, had crashed into the Pennsylvania woods. Cosmos 96 was originally designed for a bold mission to reach the distant planet Venus. During its critical launch phase, the Soviet craft suffered a catastrophic failure that ended its journey. Trapped in a decaying orbit, the satellite was destined to fall back to Earth in a fire. Eyewitnesses noted a striking similarity between the Soviet design and the mysterious acorn-shaped craft in the ravine. Like the Kecksburg object, the Cosmos 96 probe featured a distinct, rounded acorn shape. This visual link made the Soviet satellite theory seem like the most plausible answer for investigators. But when researchers examined the flight logs, they discovered a timeline that defied all logical explanation. Records show that Cosmos 96 actually crashed into the Canadian wilderness early that same morning. The impact in Canada occurred at exactly 3:18 in the morning on December 9th. This official crash time created a massive discrepancy that the military could not easily explain away. The Kecksburg event took place 13 hours after the Soviet satellite had already met its end. Identifying the object as Cosmos 96 was like identifying a car by a mismatched hub. How could a satellite fall 13 hours before its supposed crash and still be the same object? Decades later, expert Nicholas Johnson confirmed that Cosmos 96 could never have reached Pennsylvania soil. In 2003, his analysis finally closed the door on the Soviet satellite explanation. With the meteor and satellite theories debunked, the true nature of the craft remains a mystery. If it wasn't a satellite from the USSR, the investigation by John Murphy becomes even more chilling. The search for truth would lead one man into a labyrinth of silence and government intimidation. We must now follow the trail of a reporter who saw too much and paid the price. Investigating the Kecksburg crash didn't just cost John Murphy his career. It may have cost his life. While the scientists debated orbits, one dedicated reporter was busy looking for the truth on the ground. John Murphy served as a respected news reporter and a popular host for WHJB radio and he was one of the first journalists to reach the wooded ravine on that cold December night. Driven by professional curiosity, Murphy successfully took several photographs of the mysterious object in the woods. His camera captured the strange acorn-shaped craft before the military could fully cordon off the area. However, his documentation was short-lived, as local police reportedly confiscated his precious rolls of film. Even without the photos, Murphy continued his investigation. Determined to tell the story to his listeners, he began preparing a special broadcast to reveal exactly what he had witnessed in those woods. But before his show could air, two mysterious individuals claiming to be government officials suddenly arrived. A witness named Focia later described these visitors as imposing men dressed in ominous dark suits. They did not come to talk. They came with a clear and firm demand for Murphy's materials. These men in dark suits insisted that Murphy hand over all his remaining research and notes. Murphy was like a man who took a picture of a ghost, only to have it follow him home. Who were these officials? And why were they so desperate to silence a local radio reporter? After the visit, the tone of Murphy's investigation shifted, and much of his evidence simply vanished. The silence surrounding the incident grew heavier as the years passed following the military lockdown. Years later, in a tragic and sudden turn of events, Murphy died in a reported hit-and-run incident. Is it a coincidence that a man with evidence of the crash died in such a violent manner? While officials claim his death was an accident, many believe it was the final act of a Murphy's film was taken. His voice was silenced, and the data was left to speak for itself. While Murphy himself fell silent, his colleagues at WHJB Radio watched the mystery unfold from the front lines. Michael Mazer, Murphy's station manager, became a first-hand witness to the pressure descending upon their small office. The air at the station grew heavy as Murphy meticulously prepared his explosive radio documentary. He titled The Special Broadcast Object in the Woods, promising to reveal the truth about Keck. Every recording and interview Murphy gathered was intended to shed light on that cold December night. However, before the broadcast could air, the atmosphere at the station shifted from excitement to palpable fear. Linda Focia, a close colleague of Murphy, vividly remembers the moment the outside world forced its way in. She recounted the arrival of mysterious visitors whose presence felt like a chilling shadow over the newsroom. These individuals were described as stern men, wearing dark, nondescript suits that signaled official authority. They didn't come to provide answers, but to strip away the evidence Murphy had worked so hard to collect. These men in dark suits issued a cold demand for every scrap of Murphy's research materials. The station staff watched in stunned silence as their investigative work was systematically seized and removed. Every tape and record regarding the Acorn-Shaped craft was suddenly and forcefully taken from their hands. Despite the intimidating visit and the loss of primary evidence, the scheduled broadcast loomed on the calendar. The tension reached a breaking point as the time for Object in the Woods finally arrived. Surprisingly, the radio show titled Object in the Woods actually aired to the local Kecksburg audience. Listeners tuned in across the region, expecting the groundbreaking revelations Murphy had originally promised. Despite the missing evidence, the broadcast delivered Murphy's narrative to a public hungry for the truth. The presence of those mysterious men, however, left a lasting mark of fear on the station's staff. Michael Mazer and Linda Focia would never forget the cold efficiency of those who sought to silence them. If we cannot trust the fading memories of witnesses, we must turn to the cold, objective instruments. Two prestigious scientific journals presented two different directions, yet the Earth itself recorded the final truth. In February 1966, the respected Sky and Telescope magazine published its own detailed report on the fireball. Their analysis concluded the object's fiery path ended somewhere in or near the waters of western Lake Erie. However, this conclusion would soon be challenged by another esteemed body of professional astronomical research. A 1967 report from the Royal Astronomical Society of Canada suggested a completely different flight trajectory. Their experts claimed the mysterious object was actually moving from the southwest toward the northeast. That evening, why would world-class experts disagree so sharply on whether the craft was moving southwest or northeast? While the visual paths remained a point of contention, mechanical sensors captured a far more reliable signal. A sensitive seismograph located 20 miles southwest of Detroit felt the sudden tremors of a massive impact. This seismographic record acts like a digital fingerprint, identifying the exact moment the cosmic crime occurred. The instruments captured a precise moment of impact, marking the event at exactly 4:44 p.m. These shockwaves rippling through the ground confirmed the object had hit something with immense, violent force. It tells us precisely when the incident happened, even if we still do not know who committed it. If the impact was strong enough to be recorded 20 miles from Detroit, why was damage so localized? This analytical data creates a rigid timeline that contradicts many of the earlier, more convenient military explanations. Scientists found themselves trapped between conflicting visual reports and the undeniable vibrations of the trembling Earth. The 4:44 p.m. timestamp became the one unshakable anchor in a sea of confusing, contradictory stories. Despite the scientific prestige of these organizations, their disagreement only deepened the mystery of the Kecksburg craft. But even the most advanced seismograph cannot explain why a supposed meteor failed to leave a crater. Even without a seismograph reading, the scientific community prepared a response that contradicted the physical evidence. In 1967, the Journal of the Royal Astronomical Society of Canada finally broke its silence. This formal report aimed to replace local rumors with what they called objective astronomical truth. Two specialized astronomers meticulously tracked the fireball's blazing path across the cold December sky. They pinpointed the object passing directly over Detroit at precisely 4:43 that fateful afternoon. Their calculations did not lead to Kecksburg or its mysterious acorn-shaped craft in the woods. Instead, the official data suggested a completely different destination for the strange celestial visitor. The scientific report claimed the object actually impacted the northwestern shore of Lake Erie. This location sat near Windsor, Ontario, hundreds of miles away from the Pennsylvania recovery site. It was a staggering contradiction that left the Kecksburg witnesses questioning their own shared reality. How could the scientific establishment place a crash in water while soldiers guarded a forest? The researchers at the Royal Astronomical Society seemed entirely disconnected from the chaos on the ground. They dismissed the acorn-shaped craft as a mere optical illusion born from a chaotic fireball, while WHJB radio reporters watched the military lockdown. They dismissed the acorn-shaped craft as a mere optical illusion born from a chaotic fireball. While WHJB radio reporters watched the military lockdown. While WHJB radio reporters watched the military lockdown. The scientists looked only at their charts. This growing divide between physical evidence and academic theory created a permanent rift in the story. Some wondered if the Lake Erie theory served as a convenient screen for a secret project. Was it possible the scientists were unknowingly analyzing a different fragment of the larger event? Or was the Royal Astronomical Society report an intentional effort to steer curiosity away from The discrepancy raised uncomfortable questions about whether the experts were tracking a meteor or something else. If the impact truly occurred in Ontario, then what exactly did the military find in that ravine? The mystery deepened as theories of a downed satellite like Cosmos 96 began to circulate. Others whispered about more exotic possibilities, like the legendary and high-secret device known as Die Glocke. John Murphy continued to dig for the truth, even as the official narrative shifted toward the lake. The conflict between the stars above and the mud below remains a central pillar of the mystery. This scientific diversion only fueled the fire for those who believed a massive cover-up was underway. To see what a meteor actually does, we must look to the far-off lands of the east. Real cosmic impacts leave behind massive scars that can be seen from the very edge of space. In 1908, the remote region of Siberia experienced a cataclysm known as the Tunguska event. A massive meteor exploded over the forest, unleashing energy that defied all conventional scientific understanding. The sheer scale of the destruction left behind by this single explosion was truly terrifying to witness. Over 80 million trees were flattened in an instant, radiating outward from the blast's central point. This devastation covered more than 830 square miles of previously dense and untouched Siberian wilderness. Comparing that level of destruction to a few scorched grass patches in Pennsylvania highlights a massive discrepancy. Decades later, another cosmic visitor reminded the world of the true power hidden within the stars. In 2013, the Chelyabinsk meteor screamed across the Russian sky before exploding with a blinding flash. This modern event provided high-definition proof of the violence inherent in a typical atmospheric meteor entry. The shockwave from the Chelyabinsk explosion was powerful enough to damage more than 7,000 separate buildings. Shards of glass and collapsing structures resulted in injuries to approximately 1,500 unsuspecting people below. If the Kecksburg object was truly a meteor, the resulting damage should have been far more extensive. Why did the Kecksburg impact cause only a thud, while Chelyabinsk shattered windows 4 miles around? A natural meteor of that size would have leveled the surrounding woods and terrified the entire town. Instead of a crater and flattened trees, witnesses found an intact craft resting quietly in the ravine. This stark contrast suggests the object was not falling, but was actually under some form of control. If Chelyabinsk injured 1,500 people, the silence of the Kecksburg woods becomes even more suspicious. The lack of destruction points toward a controlled landing rather than a random and violent cosmic accident. Every data point from these historical impacts makes the official Kecksburg meteor theory seem increasingly impossible. But in the search for truth, we must first learn to discard the convincing fakes. One image often defines the Kecksburg legend, appearing on nearly every UFO conspiracy website across the internet. It depicts military personnel carefully hoisting a massive Acorn-shaped craft onto a flatbed truck in broad daylight. The grainy quality and military uniforms lend an air of undeniable authenticity to the historical recovery effort. For years, enthusiasts pointed to this visual record as the ultimate proof of a secret government cover-up. The most famous proof of the Kecksburg recovery, it is actually nothing more than a clever Hollywood prop. Using this photo as evidence is like using a movie poster to prove a historical event happened. How did a simple television prop become a staple of UFO conspiracy sites and documentary archives? The truth behind the image lies not in military archives, but in the production notes of television. In the early 1990s, the popular show Unsolved Mysteries brought the Kecksburg story to national television. To recreate the events for viewers, the production team commissioned a full-scale replica of the mysterious object. Photographers captured the staged recovery on film, never realizing these shots would later fuel decades of conspiracy. This fabrication from the production of Unsolved Mysteries eventually escaped the screen and entered the public consciousness. Many researchers now confirm that the broad daylight recovery photo is a modern creation for television entertainment. Thus debunking one famous photo invalidate the genuine testimony of the firefighters who were actually there. While the image is fake, The eyewitness accounts of the acorn-shaped craft remain consistent across several decades. We must separate the Hollywood dramatizations from the strange realities reported by witnesses like John Murphy. Calling out these fakes is essential for maintaining credibility in our analytical search for the absolute truth. The military certainly removed something from that ravine, but it did not look like the television prop. If the photo is not real, we must look deeper at the physical evidence left behind in Pennsylvania. The military lockdown and the frantic activity at WHJB Radio Point 2. A very real, non-television event. We are left questioning if the object was a failed Soviet Cosmos 96 or something far more exotic. Scientific data from the seismograph readings might provide clues that a staged photograph never could. The acorn-shaped craft continues to haunt history, even when the most famous visual evidence is proven false. Even without the photo, the theories surrounding the Kecksburg incident only continue to grow much stranger. Some suggest the object was a secret weapon like Die Glocke, or perhaps from another era entirely. If it was not a meteor, and it was not a satellite, we are left with the exotic and terrifying. Could the symbols on the craft have been terrestrial, but from a dark chapter of our own history? A provocative theory suggests the Kecksburg object was actually Die Glocke, a top-secret Nazi experimental craft. This theory acts as a dark mirror to the UFO hypothesis, keeping the craft but changing the pilot. Both the Kecksburg mystery and this Nazi legend center on a strange, metallic, acorn-shaped craft. In 2011, the History Channel series Ancient Aliens brought this chilling connection into the mainstream spotlight. According to these claims, Die Glocke was a clandestine project developed during the height of World War II. This mysterious bell was purportedly capable of incredible feats like gravity defiance and even time travel. Legends describe the craft being powered by a strange, swirling fuel with an eerie red hue. Oversight of such fringe Nazi wonder weapons often fell to the notorious SS officer Hans. Why would a top-secret Nazi project reappear in a Pennsylvania forest 20 years after the war? Is gravity defiance the only explanation for a massive object that lands without leaving a crater? The similar shapes of the Kecksburg object and the Nazi bell create a haunting historical parallel. If the symbols were not alien, perhaps they were the remnants of a terrestrial, forgotten technology. While the theory is exotic, it matches the witness descriptions of a craft that seemingly defied physics. Perhaps the military's swift arrival was not to hide aliens, but to recover lost wartime secrets. The recovery mission's intensity suggests the object's value was far beyond that of a common satellite. This theory forces us to reconsider the strange markings reported by the firefighters on that cold night. Could those cryptic symbols have been a code used by human engineers during a dark era? The idea of a Nazi bell landing in Pennsylvania turns a UFO mystery into a global conspiracy. If such a craft existed, its recovery would be the highest priority for any Cold War superpower. Every detail of the Kecksburg crash seems to point toward a technology we still do not fully understand. Whether it arrived from the stars or a hidden lab, the object remains a ghost of history. We are left to wonder if the truth is buried in classified files or deep in the woods. Whether it was a secret weapon or a visitor from afar, the government's silence remains the loudest part. Decades have passed, but the dense woods of Kecksburg still hold their terrifying secret. Located 30 miles southeast of Pittsburgh, this quiet village became the center of a global mystery. Tucked into the southwest corner of Pennsylvania, Kecksburg remains a place where the past never sleeps. The government says they found nothing, but thousands of witnesses claim they saw everything that night. Authorities officially claimed a search of the woods yielded nothing, yet the evidence tells another story. Can a legend survive for over 50 years if it is based on absolutely nothing at all? If nothing was found, why was the area secured like a high-stakes nuclear site? Kecksburg is like a puzzle where every piece fits, but the box it came in is empty. We are left to reconcile the official silence with the thunderous thud that shook the earth. Witnesses still vividly recall that strange, acorn-shaped craft, emblazoned with symbols that defied any known language. Was it truly a failing Cosmos 96 satellite, or something far more advanced and terrestrial? Perhaps the whispers of Die Glocke hold the key to what really crashed in that ravine. Even without a seismograph reading, the community knows that something physical plummeted from the winter sky. The brave reporters at WHJB Radio documented a reality that the military desperately tried to erase. John Murphy sought the truth until his final days, leaving behind a legacy of unanswered questions. The sheer lack of a transparent explanation continues to fuel the fires of this enduring Pennsylvania legend. With sightings stretching across the continent, the official denial feels increasingly like a hollow mask. Today, the trees in that ravine grow over a site that changed history forever. The Kecksburg incident stands as a monument to the things we are told to forget. Every December, the residents look toward the stars and wonder what really landed in their woods. And now, the final question of this enduring mystery remains for you to decide. The evidence is finally on the table, and the Kecksburg mystery remains as dense as the woods. What do you believe actually plunged into that dark ravine on that cold December evening in 1960? Was it merely the failed Soviet probe Cosmos 96, as many official investigators have long suggested? Or does the silent seismograph record prove that the object was something far lighter than a meteor? Think back to the strange acorn-shaped craft and the mysterious hieroglyphs etched into its metallic surface. Was this a product of human hands? Or did something truly otherworldly find its way to Pennsylvania? We cannot forget the courageous witnesses at WHJB Radio who first brought this incredible story to light. Consider the heavy price paid by John Murphy, a man whose search for truth led to silence. Perhaps the answer lies in the terrifying Nazi bell theory known to many as the legend of Die Glocke. The Kecksburg file is open now, and it is finally your turn to step in as the lead investigator. Does the military lockdown suggest a cover-up of terrestrial technology or a discovery from the stars? Every detail we have explored adds another layer to a mystery that refused to be buried by time. We want to hear your thoughts on what really happened during those frantic hours in the woods. Was it a cosmic accident, a Cold War secret, or a visitor from a distant, unknown world? The government continues to maintain its silence, leaving the residents of Kecksburg with only their questions. Your voice is a vital part of this ongoing investigation into one of history's greatest unexplained events. Leave a comment below and share which piece of evidence resonates most deeply with your own intuition. Join the conversation as we piece together the fragments of a night that changed a small town forever. The truth may still be hidden out there, waiting for the right person to finally uncover its core. Until then, the legend of Kecksburg will continue to haunt the shadows of our collective American memory.